Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Love Affair. Today's episode is going to be on how to develop a prayer life, part 3. And if you haven't watched the first 2 parts, definitely check the description bar below. I've left links to this. You can also always check out my blog at pghloveaffair.org. I always try to blog about my entries. That way, if you don't like watching videos, or say you are somewhere that you cannot necessarily watch videos, hint, hint, work or school, you can always read up on them. So if you are interested in the third part of this series, definitely stay tuned and keep on watching. Again, so I apologize in advance if I am looking down or I'm looking afar. I am enjoying this beautiful scenery today. It is a lovely day out, and I do have my Bible app, so I will be referencing Matthew chapter 6, as well as I have some notes that I've written down to accommodate part 3 of developing a prayer life. So if you watch part 1 and part 2, you will know a couple key things about developing a prayer life. Number 1, first and foremost, you need faith, for without faith it is impossible to please God, and you need consistency. You know, Thessalonians speaks on praying without ceasing. And then the second part, I've spoken about the Lord's Prayer that Jesus gave us a model of in Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 13 as well, which is a parallel in Luke chapter 11, verses 1 through 4. The references I am going through are in New King James, simply because other versions do omit certain verses, which is something you may need to consider when you're reading your Bible. Always try to reference back to the King James Version, although I myself am not a fan of the King James versions for obvious reasons, but it is the closest to the original manuscript, so to get things into perspective and in good context, it's always good to reference the King James Version. So moving along, part 3 of this series is to incorporate fasting into your prayer life. There are a lot of things that only fasting can get rid of. Strongholds, burdens, habitual sin, impurities. Fasting has so many benefits, both for your physical well-being and your spiritual well-being. And I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible. I can go on and on and on about fasting. It is the perfect suicide. The perfect way to kill your flesh is through fasting. And there are some health reasons why fasting is beneficial. And I'm going to try my best to keep this on a spiritual tip. Simply because sometimes people take things out of context and misuse and even abuse fasting. So I'm going to continue off on Matthew chapter 6, beginning with verse 16. It says, "Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear to be as men fasting. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their rewards. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly." So here Jesus is simply telling them when you fast, not if you fast, but when you fast, making that a requirement of Christian living. It is important to fast. Before I talk about the importance of fasting, I want to talk about the different kinds of fast. Now, fasting has always had to do with food. Okay, it's about controlling our mouth. It's about controlling our appetite. It's about controlling and putting into submission our flesh, which is hard, very hard. The Bible speaks about the spirit and the flesh going head to head. And you know, many people make reference to this, that you are your worst enemy. Your flesh is your worst enemy, because the flesh wants what it wants, when it wants, how it wanted, like yesterday. So with all that being said, fasting can help you gain control over your flesh. The different types of fast there is the Daniel fast, which is very famous and popular simply because you're eating vegetables, fruits and vegetables. And if you are not familiar with the story of Daniel, I recommend you to go read it. Daniel separated himself from eating the luxuries of the kings meals and separated himself unto the Lord and ate only of fruits and vegetables to sustain himself while he consecrated his life unto the Lord. Definitely read the book of Daniel. You will know, everybody knows the story about Daniel and the lions. Then if you do not know it, check it out. Daniel overcame a lot of temptations and persecution during that time while he was consecrated unto the Lord while fasting. There's also the famous Jewish fast, which is pretty much a 12-hour fast where you are consuming meals for probably 4 hours within a day, because if you are sleeping 8 hours a day, you only have 4 hours a day to eat, and you're fasting for the remainder of the 12 hours of a day within 24 hours. So, and that normally is from sunup to sundown. Jews still participate in this. This is most of the time from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. However, as an American who is a non-Jew, I don't necessarily love the Jewish fast simply because I don't wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I feel as though I am cheating, waking up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then fasting until 6 p.m. So if you are going to do the Jewish fast, let's not cheat. Let's, and maybe this is just me, comment below if you think otherwise, but let's do it the right way and do it 12 hours and do legit 12 hours. So if you're waking up at 10 a.m., fast until 10 p.m. Or if you're waking up at 9, fast until 9, and vice versa, sun up to sundown. Or if you find yourself capable of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be in a good mood, shout out to you. And then do your sun up to sundown. Then there is the absolute fast, where there is absolutely nothing taken in. No water, no Ensure, no ginger ale, no Gatorade, no Propel. And that is simply nothing, nada. Now, it is said scientifically that your body can sustain itself at least 3 days without water. However, there are people out there who can go 3, 6, 10 days. I do recommend doing this. If you feel like God has called you to do a fast, an absolute fast, go for it, because obviously there are amazing benefits to this. Moses fast before he ever received his assignment from the Lord. That moment, that instance at the burning bush, check that out. That was a fast. The moment Jesus himself went into the wilderness, that was a fast. Even Paul on the road to Damascus, after that, he separated himself and he was just alone with God, and he himself went into a fast. So if God is calling you to a fast, whether it's an absolute fast or whatever the case may be, definitely pray about it. Talk to your pastor. Talk to your pastor and mention it. Make note of it. Don't brag about it, but make mention to your pastor about this fast that you are embarking on. Let someone know that you are embarking on a fast so that you can be accountable. So say something were to happen to you and you're not safe, or you need something. Not only you have someone who can help you break that fast properly, but you also have someone who's watching out for you. In continuance with fasting, there is the water fast, where you consume only water. Some people even add herbal teas to their water fast. And then there are also the liquid fast, where some people take in juices, the juice fasts, and just to keep their caloric intake to a certain point so that they can be crucifying their body, but still, for health reasons at least, make sure that they are maintaining fasting within safe parameters. Then we're going to different kinds of fasts that people have modified because of health reasons. Some people do media fast. Some people are more addicted to media than food. Some people could be online and with technology. They don't even have to eat. All they need is their media and their technology, and they're good. And I know a lot of people that's very big amongst young adults, fasting technology in this day and age. I have my personal opinions about that. But if that works for you and you have health reasons, definitely go for it. Then there is, Ratchet TV, as I call it. Ratchet TV entertainment, which kind of goes into media fasting, or, abstaining from meat, which is kind of like the Daniel fast. However, the Daniel fast was only vegetables and fruits. And whereas obtaining from meat, you still have options to your carbs. So whichever goes. So fasting, in my in my opinion, as well as what the Bible teaches, has always have something to do with food. However, there are ways to modify your body, modify your fast, so that you are killing with the desires of the flesh. Because that's the ultimate purpose, is the desires of the flesh. And knowing in this day and age, we all have different desires. You know, some people just love their food and want their food all day, every day. But then some people can live without food naturally. Some people are not really crazy about eating. And their biggest issues when it comes to the flesh is about shopping, you know, or, you know, overspending, or, you know, spending too much time on a hobby, or spending too much time, you know, watching television or media, etc., etc. So I say all of this just to say that fasting is about killing the flesh. There are different types of fasts out there. Always at least let one person, a spiritual accountability partner, know that you are fasting if you are going to go a longer period of time. What else is there that I wanted to say about fasting? Be sure to pray while you're fasting, because sometimes, and I've done this in the fast, and I've struggled with this in the past, sometimes it's easy to omit your meats and then not be praying and seeking God. And even Jesus speaks about this. It's not about starving yourself and killing yourself. It's about getting closer to God in this process and feeding your spiritual man, not your flesh. So Jesus spoke of, and when you fast, how important it is to fast, and a couple ways to incorporate fasting in your prayer life. And I think I'm going to make a part 2 to this video because I don't want this to be too long. But start slow. If you feel like you can go 12 hours, do 12 hours. If you feel like you can't do the full 12 hours, don't do the full 12 hours. Do 4 hours, do 8 hours. My grandma told me this, actually, and I love this. I've been doing this ever since she told me this. And, you know, whenever you decide to fast, and whenever you decide to take some time out to fast, make sure you have that time to consecrate and submerge yourself and saturate yourself into God's presence. I mean, if you are going to fast for 4 hours, make sure you're praying during that 4 hours, and you're reading your Bible during that 4 hours, listening to sermons during that 4 hours, you're worshiping during that 4 hours, because then your fast is even more beneficial, not only for your spiritual man, but for your physical man, because you're actually accomplishing something. Don't go on one of those, you know, 4 hour, okay, I'm fasting and I'm bored out of my life and I can't stop thinking about food, and I'm on Pinterest pinning meals I'm gonna eat when I end this fast. Okay, don't do that. So start small. Try to be as consistent as possible. I know my church has incorporated fasting once a week, and that has helped me in my fasting life, because I used to feel like I have to fast at least 3 days, 3 to 10 days to be accomplished. But I've learned to do it modestly, which is at least once a week, and that's enough. The beauty and the benefit of fasting, I'm going to talk more about in the next video. And if you are interested in knowing more, definitely stay tuned and watch my next video. As always, comment, rate, subscribe. Definitely connect with me. I will leave all my information below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.